Remember the action sequence in Pushpa 1, The Rise, where Pushpa's face is covered with a cloth, his hands are tied, and yet he has to fight a horde of people in a forest to retrieve his money. Pushpa 2, The Rule, especially after the success of Pushpa 1, is a similar challenge for both its director Sukumar and its hero Allu Arjun. As long as the film challenges itself 9 out of 10 times, it passes with an A grade. In the portions where it doesn't, the film fails to impress but never becomes outright boring. Hi, I'm Kairam Vaashi, and this is the Hollywood Reporter India.
नाम छोटा है लेकिन साउंड बहुत बड़ा.
పుష్ప అంటే పేరు కాదు, పుష్ప అంటే బ్రాండ్.
If Rocky in KGF considered himself the CEO of India, Pushpa considers himself not just a national but an international boss. In Pushpa The Rise, Pushpa from being a coolie rises to becoming the head of the red sandalwood smuggler syndicate. The BHAG ways, big, hairy, audacious goals of Pushpa continue in Pushpa The Rule. In his rule, he not only controls the syndicate but also the state government, extending his influence to national politics. But even someone this powerful has a soft spot, his Achilles heel, the family name he's been denied. Like in Pushpa 1, that character element continues here, where his maniacal behavior is attributed to the denial of his true identity. Just Pushpa or Pushpa Raju isn't enough. It has to be Molleti Pushpa Raju. Pushpa has the power to buy off a police station, including the policemen there, but at heart he is still the vulnerable young boy who yearns for his mother's lap and for her honor to be restored. Identity, pride, and ego are key themes in this film. The film is a cat and mouse game between Pushpa and Bhanwar Singh Shekhawat, Fahadh Faasil's character, until a new enemy, a syndicate of Pushpa's enemies, emerges towards the end, leading into Pushpa 3, The Rampage. Like KGF Chapter 2, Pushpa The Rule 2 is a film where everything is dialed up to 11. Even Pushpa's lift of the left shoulder seems a lot more pronounced here. If you want to try this film out, let alone enjoy it, I strongly encourage you to align yourself with its vibe before entering the movie hall. Do not expect logic, physics, or subtlety. No, not even in romance. Comparison with KGF is unavoidable. Rocky is all about being a brand, and so is Pushpa. The mother sentiment is obviously present here too. Pushpa 1 ended with a wedding, and this one too has one towards the end. In that episode, the emotions are high but contained, and Pushpa walks with his mother, never letting go of her. As an episode or a scene, it's one of the weaker ones, but this aspect was special. Not only the mother, the film as a whole seeks to place women at the center. I also think it aims to showcase that there is both a masculine and a feminine side to all of us. However, the way this comes across is somewhat contrived and twisted. Flower is a female, fire is male, Shekhawat alludes to in a scene. The alpha male Pushpa also plays Mahishasura Mardhini, Durga. During this, Allu Arjun seems to have channeled Rishabh Shetty's portrayal of Guliga in Kantara. He goes even further, showcasing his celebrated dancing skills as well. Speaking of which, Allu Arjun's performance, the confidence and conviction with which he plays Pushpa, is undoubtedly the linchpin of this Pushpa world. Writer-director Sukumar seems to have aimed for a combination of episodic style writing spiced with frequent highs and elevations. It's not very different from Pushpa 1, but the intent this time is much more obvious. More than focusing on coherence or the narration of the story, the emphasis is on writing engaging scenes without much concern for runtime, similar to Sandeep Reddy Vanga's Animal. I know I have already mentioned a few film and director names, but that was merely for reference, not to compare Sukumar with any other director. Even before many of these directors started their careers, Sukumar was already a brand since 2004. My references or comparisons, if you will, are simply commentary on how film writing seems to be approached at the moment. Like the idea of giving women space at the center of the stage, there also appears to be a compulsion to depict gods and goddesses. The scene where Pushpa seems to embody the spirit of Durga left me slightly confused. On one hand, it seems to portray bhakti, but on the other, there also seems to be a hint of romance between Pushpa and Srivalli. However, even that is not just a scene, it's written like an episode. There's something about Pushpa's family, his stepbrother's family, the god element with Pushpa himself being the Devudu or Sami or god, the goddess element, a dance, a fight. Even Rashmika gets a single shot monologue that she clearly gives her best for. In fact, that's something you see throughout the film. There's always something happening, and almost everything in the first half works really well. I loved Pushpa's introduction, although the other characters in that scene weren't fully convincing. But the element of audaciousness is there right from the start. The way the hero is introduced, where he was for 40 odd days, the language used, and even how he picked up that language. Take, for instance, the police station scene, the fantastic photo with the Chief Minister episode, or the episode leading to the interval point, and the multiple elements it incorporates. Emotions, ego, people judging Pushpa, the tape recorder, the mirror, the swimming pool. Each of these episodes has a brilliant beginning, middle, and end. I think wherever Sukumar and his team have challenged themselves or been confidently audacious, they have come out on top, be it with the elephants or a bunch of villains all wearing wigs. Even some of the softer moments work, like the 2-second moment in the washroom when Pushpa yawns after Srivalli. Humor is another aspect I enjoyed. In the second half, there's a scene where Pushpa and Shekhawat communicate through whistling and mime, and Pushpa's gang plays along as well. Speaking of Shekhawat, Fahadh Faasil is, as expected, good. However, the role, Shekhawat himself is more of a speed breaker than a real threat to the invincible Pushpa. That said, Rao Ramesh is excellent. The real problem with Pushpa is its second half. The graph starts to decline, and with the step family angle, it takes a significant hit. Even if the second half had been more of the same, it might have been acceptable. Instead, it becomes increasingly less engaging with relatively lower quality writing and scenes. The dialogues, however, are as sharp as those in Pushpa 1. They just aren't consistent throughout. Another wildfire in the film is its cinematography, which, though sometimes topsy-turvy like Pushpa himself, ultimately adds to the overall flavor. Personally, for me, fights and action are watchable only if there's something inventive about them. Like Pushpa 1, the intent here is similar, and it mostly works unless stretched. Speaking of action choreography, I am reminded of the dance choreography. There may be one too many songs, but I didn't mind them because I have always been a fan of the choreographers in Telugu cinema. I am aware that some have reservations about it, for example, in the Peelings song. I watched Pushpa 1 earlier this week and it still worked. Pushpa 2 falls short, sure, which is almost expected with sequels. But the first half was definitely paisa vasool, especially if the ticket prices weren't this high. For more reviews like this, subscribe to The Hollywood Reporter India.